Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders.
And the TV show Wings.
And all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox.
This is our first episode, right?
Yeah, I know. We just did 10 minutes of prep work because we were so nervous, but here we are.
Here we are.
Okay, so we know each other because we used to live in Philadelphia until, when did you move to Cleveland?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, and I'm still in Philadelphia. We bonded over our love of pop culture and esoterica.
That's right. We both have like very odd minds for it. But our problem is that a lot of the shows that we enjoyed, no one else remembers.
Okay, I was trying to remember the third show that was on Trilogy the other day, and I could not remember it, and I was so upset. But it was The Profiler, The Pretender.
The Pretender.
And what's the third one?
I think so it kept changing.
Oh.
Like
so those are the anchors of the.
They tried one, and then like that lasted less than a season, and then they tried to fill in another one, didn't work. But I want to say that the third one was called something like Dark Skies. But
that's confusing because there was a later show called Dark Skies with Noah Wyle, but I don't think that was it.
Yeah, NBC's classic programming block, the NBC Trilogy, a very, life-changing block of television.
What happened was we've been talking about doing this for a long time. So I texted you if you were still interested, and you responded immediately yes. And then you asked me the highly offensive question if I remember the Friday Night Trilogy, and I said yes. Like it sunk to the core of who I was that you thought I didn't know what that show was. That series.
Your response to that just really killed me because no one else remembers the NBC Trilogy, but you were deeply offended that I would even ask, which was just wonderful to me. And I just looked it up, by the way, and Dark Skies was the original third show.
But what was Dark Skies? What was that about?
I don't know. Let's see. It says,
I'm sure I watched it.
An American UFO conspiracy theory based sci-fi television series that debuted on NBC on September 21st, 1996.
Okay, I watched this. Oh my God. Dark Skies, 1986. This is like the show The Americans with Kerry Russell, coincidentally. It's like so similar. Oh, but with aliens.
And then
we got this on the list. We got this on the list.
It looks like there's a lot of stuff happening in the 1960s. I feel like the show is ahead of its time.
So what's your relationship with Sliders?
I loved Sliders. I think it followed X-Files. Am I correct?
It was a Wednesday.
So that was a Wednesday.
Well, this must have been a mid-season replacement, right? If it launched on them.
Yeah. For some reason, I remember it being on Sundays, but maybe
I know it bounced around.
I watched so much TV when I was a teen that I don't know how I did so well in high school. It's just I watched so much television, and yet I was still a straight A student, not to brag.
And look where I am today. I'm the same, where I would basically come home, watch TV. I would watch Animaniacs and what other cartoons were bookending Animaniacs, and do my homework, and then have dinner with my parents, and then go and watch more TV until 10, and then go to sleep, and then wake up and do it all over again. But I remember when I was about 15, my friend's younger brother was doing some sort of survey for school, and he asked me to keep track of how much TV I watched. And I was like, no problem.
Oh, shoot.
And then I edited it up, and I was like, 30 hours a week? That seems like a lot.
That's like those when people do like calorie counting and they're like, oh no.
But don't you think there was this like free for all in the 70s regarding TV that probably carried over into the 80s where in my household, it was just on at dinner. Like it sat there next to the dinner table and it was just on all the time.
Well, yeah, we didn't even have a dining room table, so we just sort of like ate in front of the television, like very healthy very healthy. And yeah, like I think I did my homework as soon as I got home from school, and then I would just slowly start watching TV, like around 4 o'clock where they would do that, like
That was Oprah when Oprah was on.
all of the, yeah, it was, but then they will also have all of the like reruns of popular sitcoms or
Hmm.
whatever. So it'd be like, Who was the Boss? And, Home Improvement and, like The Simpsons. And then that just carried you all the way through until when like prime time started. So
Well, every week we would get the Sunday paper, and in the Sunday paper would be the Washington Post's TV guide.
yeah,
So we always called that the TV guide. So I would open it up, I would go through week by week, and I would circle everything that I was going to be watching for that week.
I did that too, except I highlighted it.
But then I didn't know that there was an actual book called the TV guide.
No, that's for rich people.
Well, I know. Then I saw it and like made my brain explode. Like, what is this? An actual printed color book about TV.
Am I dreaming?
Anyway, watched a lot of TV. Didn't go out a lot. Thank God for TV. Thank God I was there when Comedy Central was invented. That was formative.
See, you were very lucky. I grew up without cable, so I definitely
You caught up though. You caught up.
yeah, I've definitely caught up. So I'm fine now. But it was definitely a lack there in my life. There are still shows where people will reference them or talk about them, and I have never seen one episode, and it was just like I mean, like Mr. Show is like a big show for people like around our age.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to see one episode of that show. So
We had cable on and off depending on the promos. So we'd get it for the promo, lose it, get it, lose it. I didn't see Mr. Show until later either.
yeah, I would always like soak up cable whenever I was visiting someone who had cable. So my grandparents had cable. So whenever I was like spending in their house, I would just like watch like MTV and Comedy Central like all day long.
Does MTV still exist?
I,
I mean, it must.
I'm gonna say yes.
Did they just air TikTok videos?
Right, exactly. I mean, I think it's just, it's just like episodes of Teen Mom and like shows like that. But
so to focus on Sliders, I definitely watched every single episode of Sliders, but I think the reason why it's memorable for me or why it stuck with me was because it was one of the first sci-fi shows I ever watched.
yeah.
Previously, the only other sci-fi show I'd ever seen was probably Quantum Leap, which I saw by accident at my cousin's house.
And
I remember just thinking, like, what is this?
Yeah, and Quantum Leap's like pretty similar. Like it's got like some crossover kind of vibe.
It's different every week, or not an anthology, but the world.
Sort of like you're in a different sort of. There's different sets, and there's different like you're in a whole different life.
But I actually have in my notes something about Quantum Leap because I was wondering. I know Quantum Leap did this thing that was so annoying where at the end of each episode, he'd leap into some crazy situation and go, oh boy. That wasn't where they picked up the next
No,
week.
I know.
And I was wondering if Sliders didn't do that, or did they? And we shall find out.
I want to say it was a mix. I want to say there was like a handful where they would slide into like they escape someplace and slide into a new place, and like then you wouldn't return to the new world on the next episode, but sometimes they did. So it was a real mix. Now, are you sure you've seen every single episode of Sliders? You're sure?
I just don't know what would have stopped me, Val, but
well, because
no, I have, because when it came onto Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, then you watched all of it?
Years ago, I watched it while I was at my job. That was super boring, and I definitely ran through the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Because there were 5 seasons of this show, but only 3 of them were on Fox. And then it got canceled on Fox and then moved to the SciFi channel before it was Sci-Fi with 2 Ys. And I, like yourself, wanted to do a Sliders rewatch a couple years ago, and I did not make it all the way through.
Did you stop after 2?
It gets real bad.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Carrie Wurr from The Rural Juror shows up.
My husband's obsessed with her, actually.
That's a 30 Rock reference. Sure.
Yes, she does that. Her name is really annoying to me. Carrie Wurr.
There's a guy at the end whose name is just Mallory, who's a merging of the original Quinn Mallory and some other Quinn Mallory, and then they just call him Mallory, and it's just some other actor.
Right. Let's describe what the premise of this show is.
Okay, so the basic plot is travelers that travel between alternate universes. That they're always in the San Francisco Bay Area. And there's 4 cast members, and they're just kind of stuck with this broken alternate universe traveler. The device is never given a name. They always call it the timer, and it just looks like a flip phone.
Right. And which, by the way, I looked it up, and it was basically a refashioned Motorola phone. I'm not kidding you. It says
it's got like a light on it. Does he think did they just tape a flashlight to it?
Yeah, it's like it was an old modified Motorola cell phone, the MicroTac. And then in season 3, it's just a television remote control.
Upgrade.
It's like the laziest thing you can possibly do. They're like, okay, so they use this like sort of like device to open up a wormhole that once you jump into it, takes you into an alternate dimension. It's the same time. The time is concurrent, but it's a different dimension. It's a different version of, Earth.
Right. Well, there are a lot of technical terms thrown around the pilot that we're going to dig into, because I have with me at my desk my thing that I purchased 3 weeks ago that came today, Sliders, the classic episodes. So this is the only available copy I could find on the internet. It costs $57.
Rachel!
You should have seen my husband's face when I told him I spent $57 on a Sliders episode guide. I told him I needed it for work, obviously.
I needed it for work.
But like I picked it up and I immediately started reading it. The first chapter is called "What is Sliding?" Anyway, love the show. I think the other reason why it stuck with me was because of Jerry O'Connell, of course.
Oh my gosh, yes. He was very cute.
Was just such a perfect teen idol, because he's ridiculously good looking in such a neutered way. Like he's so sexless.
Yes, exactly.
He's so fuzzy and round. Like his face is so
young looking, and just sort of like a big puppy dog. Just sort of like,
oh my god! I wrote he looks like a puppy.
He does. He's like that big floppy 90s hair, which is like the peak boy hairstyle. Cute boy hairstyle is like that floppy hair from the 90s. Like you can't get better than like floppy 90s hair.
Oh yeah, it just stands up. Yeah, it was great. I mean, he and the female lead actually have the same hair, but
which is kind of a little bit of a problem, but
we'll get into her.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't realize that the pilot is in 2 parts. So we had to sit down and watch an hour and a half of Sliders. You and I.
Yes.
And it doesn't fly by as much as you'd think it would, but
I don't know, it went down easy for me.
Okay. I had to watch it in 2 sittings. I didn't realize that there were going to be 2 of them. The showrunner, Tracy Torme, is Mel Torme's son, which explains why there is a Mel Torme cameo.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mel Torme, the Velvet Fog. That is.
But he plays like
he's a singer.
But he plays like a jazz singer or something that's different. Everything's different, right? I mean, like either they land in a world that's creepily the same, or they land in a world that's completely different.
Right. They're like, it's an ice planet, it's a desert planet. But then like sometimes it's just like there's something, the sky is green instead of blue.
Well, we should say,
Whoa.
well, one of the antecedents of this show is also The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone, right?
So like the co-creator of the show, Tracy Torme, Mel Torme's son, iconic. The other co-creator of the show is Robert K. Weiss. Do you know anything about him?
No.
Say he's a producer, like a film producer, and he produced, let me read you this list of movies he's produced. The Blues Brothers, Dr. Detroit, Dragnet, The Naked Gun movies, UHF, Nothing But Trouble, Weird Science, Tommy Boy, A Night at the Roxbury, Superstar, The Ladies' Man. So he's a real like SNL guy.
He's a type.
And he directed the videos for Weird Al's Like a Surgeon and Dare to Be Stupid. Yeah. So like, it feels like, so, okay, Tracy Torme wrote for Saturday Night Live in the early 80s. So I guess that's like the connecting tissue there, you know? But, and he was a story editor and writer in the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I guess that's like the sci-fi interest, but like, it's very odd because it's just like a very like comedy pedigree.
It is. I mean, there's really, I mean, as we'll get into it, Remy, the character of Rembrandt, is kind of the only person with any kind of, that provides any comic relief.
Totally.
So, first episode is very long, but okay. So it starts, we're introduced to Quinn Mallory, who's played by Jerry O'Connell, who's the main character of all the four main characters. He's the main character. And he lives in San Francisco with his mom in what looks to be a Victorian brothel.
Yeah, it's a gigantic house.
And like with most like adult teen sons and moms, like they seem to be flirting when they each other, which always makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, they have a very playful relationship.
Yeah, mom.
Oh, mom.
Maybe it's just because I know that they're just unrelated man and woman.
Unrelated man and woman.
Quinn is your typical college student who only cares about physics and his cat and lives at home.
His cat, Schrodinger.
Schrodinger, yes.
Yes, which is fully like very like Doc Brown's dog is named Einstein, kind of in Back to the Future. It's just like, what would be the name of a pet of a scientist, you know?
So he's home and then he's in his basement. He's working on an anti-gravity device, whatever that means. I can't even imagine what that would be used for.
I don't know, but there is a lot of math. So he must be doing something.
Show
it's
math
like,
is a little bit too hard for me.
It's like as much math as like Good Will Hunting. Like there's just like words of math everywhere.
You like them apples.
And he's like, I have to solve this problem, you know.
And he goes to his class at some sort of college that's nearby, like San Francisco College, I guess.
San Francisco College.
Where we see his only professor that we ever see, who is barrel-chested Professor Maximilian Arturo, who's
Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Jonathan Rhys, what's his name? Rhys-Davies, was probably the most famous, at the time, the most famous person in the cast, because he was in one of the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah.
Right?
He's iconic.
And then later on, he was also in Lord of the Rings. He played the dwarf.
Yeah.
Then after he goes to class, they like have a fight or some. I don't know. He's not paying attention in class. Then he goes to what appears to be a Best Buy where he works.
No, it's a computer store and it's called Doppler.
Okay.
Because I definitely took note of that. I was like, there's nothing more in 1995 than two main characters working at a computer store. You're like, you know what's cool? Computers. And they're like, these guys are smart. You know, he's this like, you know, science genius. He's got to have a part-time job at a computer store.
Yep. So he's supposed to be more like the physicist and she's supposed to be more of the tech person, I guess. So we were introduced to Wade, who like they immediately launched into this ongoing plot device that she likes him, but he doesn't like her. Like not only does he not like her, he like doesn't even understand that she's a woman.
He calls her like buddy and pal. Bud. Yeah. She has like a kind of an unrequited crush on him. and he is definitely like it's like he's friend zoning her like real hard. And
she's wearing the most 90s dress. Like if you looked in the encyclopedia for like 90s clothing for a woman, it's a white shirt under a paisley dress, like a long paisley dress.
Yeah, it's a good look, but
come back.
Right, definitely. I mean,
speaking of Quinn, he is so tall. He messes up the blocking in every scene, and I was just wondering, like, did they have to shoot everything twice? And then I just Googled it. He's only 6'2".
He's only 6'2"? Oh gosh.
I mean, maybe he's shrunk because now he's 47, but that doesn't seem that tall. So everyone else must have just been super short. Because he's
I think
leaning down in every scene.
I love it.
But that's because the actors tend to be, well, at least in the olden days, short people were the actors. Short people with big heads. Yeah. So a regular tall guy with a big head.
Right.
Then he goes, I guess he just goes home, goes to work, and then talks to Wade. Nothing important happens. Goes home, where we're introduced to, for the first time, to the trope of the squeaky gate.
Yes.
So when he enters the gate of his mom's house, his mother's a widower, his father's died, because he was a addle-brained professor who stepped in front of a bus because he was thinking about his work too much, and she doesn't want that to happen to.
Oh boy, those absent-minded professors! You can't control them.
So apparently, the way that we know that we are in the prime universe is that the gate in front of his mom's house squeaks.
Yes, and this is very important.
Don't forget that.
Like, this is a detail that has stuck with me for, I mean, decades. It's
because
later
on,
the squeaky gate.
Later on, there's I don't remember what season, but there's an episode where they do get back to the prime universe, and he goes to the gate. It doesn't squeak. He's despondent. They slide out of that universe, and then someone comes up and they're like, "I'm glad I fixed that gate."
And his mom pays this handyman who's just oiled the gate, and you're just like, oh.
But I should say, there's also no acknowledgement that many gates squeak.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe half the universes have squeaky gates.
It's a very dumb test. Like, it's a very dumb indicator that, hey, this is your home planet.
It's the first test, like, so if you get past the squeaky gate test, then you do some other sort of test to prove what
you see if Marilyn Monroe's alive.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, spoiler. So he's back in his basement trying to fix this problem with his anti-gravity device that he's been working on for 3 months. He was trying to make something, but he ended up making the vortex. It's confusing because he's watching a video of himself that he made.
Yeah.
Showing how the vortex worked.
Again, it's very like Back to the Future, where we're getting exposition through like a video that had been recorded during a test.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, so it's very like, but like, there's no reason, like, it's very unclear why he's watching it. Just like, he just seems to be like reminiscing about like what he did yesterday, And then he's like, okay, and then he like turns the video off, and then he's just like, okay, time for today, and then like picks up the video camera. You're like, okay.
But basically, he's accidentally created this vortex, and he has no idea what it does. So he has thrown things into the vortex, and I think they came back, but he doesn't know where they went, and he can't put a video camera through because the magnetic field would just erase the tape.
It would erase it, yes.
So eventually he decides to go through the vortex and like leaves a note for his mom, or leaves the tapes for his mom explaining where he went. And then that caused me to wonder if I would rather have a son who is a genius and goes through a vortex at age 25 and never returns, or one that never gets a job and lives with me for his entire life.
That is a good would you rather.
That's a would you rather.
That is a would you rather.
So he goes through the vortex, and then he just lands back in his lap, and he's like, ugh, damn it, I didn't go anywhere. But to sum things up, when he goes about his life, he slowly realizes that he is in an alternate universe. It just looks very similar. Like, instead of global warming, there's global cooling.
Right.
And the funniest thing is that the traffic lights are the opposite meaning. So red means
they're green means stop and red means go. It's just like very
this laundry list of things that they've chosen to be different is just so random. So vinyls replace CDs.
Right. So LPs won out the war against CD. So like there's a radio DJ, which by the way, did you notice that that's Harry Shearer?
No.
Yeah, that I had to like look it up. I was like, that's Harry Shearer. But he's just sort of like giving a news report, and he's just, like LPs are, like CDs are on their way out. Yuck.
So all the information he learns is from either the DJ on the radio in the car or from just random billboards he's looking at.
Billboards, yeah. So like advertising that Elvis live in concert.
Mm-hmm. JFK and Marilyn are married and still alive.
And JFK is still president, which makes no sense.
That also bothered me. The bigger news is that they've just released the term limits.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was concerned about.
And then the last thing is that Americans are illegally moving to Mexico. And then he gets home and he sees his mom is heavily pregnant and married to their gardener, which also didn't make sense to me, like that they had a full-time gardener, but.
Right, and also his mom's hair looks really bad and she's wearing glasses.
Oh, so different.
So different.
Which at this time I was wondering, where is the Quinn from this world, and didn't he need his car?
Right.
No explanation for where he was. So then the device starts beeping, he opens the portal and he goes back to World 1. So he's back
because this device also, like one of the features of it is it has a timer. Like it's almost like an egg timer where you set the amount of time that you want to be in whatever world it is. And then when that time is up, the portal opens back up and then you slide back through.
It's like a bug and not a feature.
Correct. And also, like, if you don't use the portal when the timer says you should, you're basically just stuck in that other world. So like there are like high stakes,
Oh yeah, I mean,
high stakes.
The timer plot device is basically like when you're watching Project One Way and they're like, this has to be done in 20 minutes.
And you're like, all right.
Because of an artificial time constraint that we've created.
Correct.
So he goes back and he goes to class and basically like everything's all messed up. His professor's mad at him. He goes to work and finds out that he was already fired. And then Wade's like, that was a great kiss.
That was a great kiss. Yeah, so, like someone who looks like him, like she's like, you made out with me. And he was like, no, I didn't.
Well, see, what I thought was that he was in a third universe.
Right.
Time. I was like, oh gosh, he's already, well, but I knew he couldn't be because he hadn't picked up the other people to go with him yet. But anyway, so then he goes back to his lab and he meets his double, another Quinn.
Right, who has the Quinn from another dimension, has also unlocked the sliding technology, and he is also sliding. So there's all of these Quinns on all of these dimensions just flitting about.
But this Quinn is preppy. His shirt is tucked in, and he's just very neat and trim, whereas our Quinn wears flannel and a utility jacket.
Correct. So yeah, like our Quinn is
also
more
married, which is weird. He's like, I'm married. We're 20, okay.
All right. Yeah, our Quinn is more grunge. He's a little bit more of a slacker vibe, and this guy's a little. I mean, to be married at 20, that's, sort of.
It might be from a world where Nirvana never happened. Grunge never.
Whoa, yeah, that's true.
So
what a bummer. And then this Quinn double, he has conveniently slid into our world on the same day that our Quinn was off gallivanting on another world. So, and since time is concurrent, Quinn is spending, I don't know, well, how many 4 hours on the other planet? There's 4 hours where he wouldn't be on this planet. He just disappears. But conveniently, this double just slides right in and takes his place.
But he just did it to mess things up. He's like, he just did it to shake things up.
He was trolling him.
It's the pre-internet version of trolling.
No, he's truly just like talking shit to his professor, telling him his theories are stupid.
I would never do that to myself.
And then he like goes into the computer job and tells off that stupid boss, and then he makes out with Wade, and you're just like, okay, just like terrorizing his life.
So this more advanced Quinn tells us that sliding is like, he's the one that introduces us to the term sliding. He calls it,
Yeah.
and it's like a roulette wheel in that you can't predict where you go. So he slides to each world, and then he goes. It sounds like he slides to each world, goes on a trip, and comes back. And then he's like, "But there's something important I have to tell you." And then he just gets sucked into his.
And then he slides back. It's like,
So,
what is it?
My first thought is like, some scientists, he should have told them the most important part first. Like, I'm not good at planning.
Definitely not.
Oh, this is where.
Yeah, this Quinn double Quinn definitely just like exists to just explain everything to the audience, just so we're all caught up. This is what the show's about. This is what this guy's gonna do. All right, you got it. Bye.
We know there's sliding, and that's about it.
That's it. That's as far as we got.
Then we meet Rembrandt for the first time, and he's kind of like a one-hit wonder. And his band was like from the '60s, and it was something like the Four Tops, but it was.
I think they were called the Spinning Tops.
Spinning Tops, nothing like the Four Tops. And he was called the Crying Man because he would get really emotional and cry when he would sing. And he's trying to make his comeback by singing the national anthem at a baseball game. And he's just in the car talking to his agent and like on his way and basically giving his own exposition of who he is and why he's so excited to sing the national anthem. And then, so all the pieces are like falling into place for them to eventually start sliding together. For some reason, Wade and Arturo, Professor Arturo, just show up at his house. I don't even know how they know each other.
Right.
Unless maybe she's also a student at the university. I don't know, but he shows him the portal. Arturo is dressed like a chubby Indiana Jones.
Correct.
Basically, he's always dressed like a professor. He's wearing like beige tweed.
A very like floppy, like cardigan kind of thing. Yeah. He looks amazing.
So this is where
in short.
Okay, that's great. They go through the portal, and then the portal, and I actually, there's probably some explanation in this book for this, but the portal then floats out of the house and sucks up Remy, who's driving by in his car.
Well, that's because for right at the last second, like a really good scientist should, Quinn for some reason is like, I need to turn up the power on this thing for whatever reason, and that causes like the wormhole thing to just float. That's it. That's the only reason it moves is that he just, there's a on the timer, he's like, okay, turning up the power. By the way, the Crane Man, like, he starts out so good so fast. Like,
yes,
he's getting ready for this comeback event where he's like singing the national anthem for a Giants game, and he's like, you know, he was like big in like this, I want to say like the 60s and 70s, and he's wearing this like shiny brown like tux, and it's amazing. And he's like talking to his agent, and he's like, you're gonna love my outfit, it's so 90s. And he just comes out of the bathroom, and it's the same like, you know, out of date 70s brown, like chocolate brown suit, but he's got a bunch of like AIDS ribbons on it. Just so good. I loved it so much.
I think I didn't notice that, and I'll have to go back and look.
You have to. It's like, it made me cry. I was just like, wow, okay. It's like a bunch of support ribbons. He's like, people love these in the 90s. So anyway, like Quinn just like, you know, turns up the power, and also like Arturo and Maximilian Arturo and Wade and Quinn have all agreed, you know, we're going to slide together. We're going to try this out together. So they're all in on it. And then just through happenstance, you know, the Crying Man is just driving past, and he just gets gobbled up by the wormhole and comes with them.
I mean, he's really the tragic figure of the show because he was in a pivotal moment of his life when he gets wrapped up in this other thing, and it's not related at all to what he wanted to be doing.
And also just like he has no skills
Right.
like to, he's not friends with these people. He doesn't know anybody. It's just like he just got like it's the luck of the draw, and he is just with strangers doing like sliding through dimensions. He's like, okay. And like he had just like a whole other trajectory going on, and it's really unfair. And what's weird is that Remy is the only character that lasts all 5 seasons of the show.
Oh, you're right.
Isn't that weird? Like the one guy who has like nothing to do with like he had no interest in sliding. He wasn't like, yeah, let's go on this slide. Oh yes, this will prove my theory, or whatever. He was just walking past, basically. And then he's the one who lasts the whole series. Everyone else like skedaddles.
Well, that's an actor thing.
Yeah.
But Remy's short for Rembrandt. Sorry.
Right. Rembrandt Brown. Rembrandt Crying Man Brown.
That's why his suit was brown. So they unfortunately end up in an ice world. It's like been a nuclear winter. The whole world is ice. They go into Quinn's, all 4 of them kind of, Rembrandt lands on the ground with them. I don't know. Somehow they all get together right in front of Quinn's house.
Which is covered in ice.
They show this really horrible now, but good at the time, effect of the Golden Gate Bridge frozen.
Yes.
It's very, very blurry looking. And then, Arturo concludes that this world has experienced a cataclysmic weather event, and then an ice tornado comes at them.
And that effect is even worse. Like that wasn't even good for 1995. I don't think that looked really bad.
And then they escape through the portal, and Quinn comes back later than everyone else. And so there's like a brief moment of like 30 seconds when Wade thinks that he's not coming back, and she starts crying. And then he comes back, he's like, "Why are you crying? You idiot."
But also, like, didn't they turned up the time? They went back early was one thing too, right? Is that they were supposed to spend 4 hours on that world, but then they were like, "Oh no."
I like sci-fi, but every time there's a technical conversation, I zone out.
So that's why I'm here.
That's why I can put up with it, because I'm not trying to pay attention to the details.
Yeah, I think that's what like causes all of the problems though, is that like
He broke it.
Yeah, he broke it because they went back too early. Like they were supposed
Let me dig into my little book here, and I'll tell you what I learned. On the first test run, Quinn gave himself a pre-programmed amount of time, and at the end of which the vortex opened up and automatically sucked him home. This would ideally be the way he'd take every trip, but in the grand old tradition of adventure stories, something went wrong, terribly wrong. In the pilot episode, the calculations are thrown off and the timing device's preset controls are wiped out. Quinn rebuilds the timer gizmo with help from Arturo, but has no way of replacing the erased programming. During his test slide, the timer was programmed with the location of home, and then the sliding machine could keep opening up gateways for them to visit new Earths, but now they have no way of telling it which dimension is their original Earth.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if this is when they see the ice tornado, they're trying to get back, so he tries to fiddle with it to get them back sooner, and it works, but then they lose the coordinates for...
Correct. They lose the coordinates for home. Right.
And they have to leave Remy's car behind, and then Remy gets his first laugh when he says, "The insurance company's never going to believe my claim." But when they get back, they again think that they're in the regular Earth Prime. So he leaves in a cab to go sing the national anthem. So he separates from the group. Quinn and Arturo wander around talking, and then like Wade goes to make a phone call, and they all realize individually that they are not in Earth Prime, but they are in this reality where the communists have won, the USSR has taken over.
Quinn, there's just like statues of Lenin everywhere.
Like Lenin, where there used to be one of Lincoln. Wade tries to make a collect call, but it's not AT&T, it's CT&T.
Yes.
Remy gets in a cab, and the driver's speaking Russian. And then people in cars start saluting when the Russian national anthem comes on the radio. Right. But for some reason, they still play baseball. Baseball is still there's still professional baseball in this universe. And then Remy is arrested for using U.S. currency. And what's really funny is that when you finally see what the Russian currency is, it looks exactly like a $1 bill, except instead of being green, it's red, and it's got Lenin's face in the middle of it.
Right. So it's like red ink too. It's like
it's the brightest red currency you've ever seen.
Yes. For sure.
And then at this point, Quinn says the device can't be fixed until it recharges itself. So that's interesting. It's some sort of, it's not solar powered, it's not battery powered, it's not powered by electricity. It just recharges itself.
Yeah, that was one thing that I was like noticing about the episode. Like, I feel like as a pilot, it's very compelling. It's like, well, this is like interesting the whole way through, and they're sort of, setting up everything pretty well. And they do explain sliding pretty well, but like they don't really bother with just sort of the details of like
why should they? I mean, why should they? It's all made up mumbo jumbo anyway. So
yeah, so they're just like, oh yeah, it needs to recharge. It's like, how do you know that?
But they do mention something that's called the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge.
There you go.
Related to Arturo's work.
That sounds very official. So.
And honestly, like I read a few paragraphs of this, and I still didn't understand it. And this is an episode guide for sliders, so. I did not miss out on any.
Yeah, I don't think that you are. It's not going to help anybody. So.
So then Remy gets taken away to be interrogated, and he's in this big parking garage, and there's like 100 people being interrogated simultaneously. So clearly, the production could only afford to rent a parking garage for this scene.
Yeah.
And then
I loved that scene because it looked like, those, an old school movie where like someone is being like in a room and the police come, there's one light on them and like a police officer comes in and like tries to get the truth out of them. But like this is like a parking garage where there's like literally 50 of these interrogations happening all at once. And they're all like slowly circling whoever's sitting in the chair.
Imagine the echoes in that room. You wouldn't be able to hear anything.
No.
And then he's like, "Are you working for the American Underground?" And Remy goes, "American Underground? Is that a band? Some kind of club?" Which is setting the precedent here that Remy knows literally nothing about anything besides the music industry.
That's correct.
His only frame of reference for absolutely everything.
That's correct.
But then he recognizes his interrogator as a TV lawyer from the Prime world, and he names him. And then they just think he's some sort of genius mastermind, and they hand him over to Judge Wapner's The People's Court.
Yeah, who is actual Judge Wapner? Am I correct?
I don't know. I never watched that show. So in this reality, it's a communist country, but there's a court.
The People's Court. Rachel, it's the People's Court.
I get it now. Okay. Okay, it's been a long day. I get it now. Okay. And then we go back to Quinn and Arturo, and like in this vision of a communist country, it just looks like a Skid Row war zone. People are just being randomly arrested and gunned down everywhere. There's like soldiers and trash everywhere. And then they decide they're going to go and try to find Remy wherever he went. Arturo tries to buy a hot dog with $1, and then they get in trouble. But then luckily the hot dog guy is working with the resistance. So he takes them to a safe house underground resistance place, which looks like the resistance from Terminator 1.
Correct.
Underground all the time. And that's where we meet Wilkins, the head of the resistance, who's played by, I don't know if you recognized him, Roger Cross. He's from one of my other favorite Canadian sci-fi shows, Continuum.
No.
He's in a lot of stuff.
What are you talking about?
Okay, it was on Netflix. It's
okay.
It's recent.
Okay.
It also involves it's time travel, Canadian time travel.
Okay.
But he's a resistance guy, and then there's another guy who's also he's got a total "hey, it's that guy" face. Garwin Sanford, and he looks like you've seen him a million times. He also looks like a Canadian version of Peter Horton from 30-something.
Got it.
Did you right? Yeah. And then the first guy, Wilkins, he recognizes Wade and gives her this like long, deep tongue kiss in front of everybody because in this reality,
very
Wade
sexy.
is one of the revolutionary leaders.
Yeah, that's right. So Wade is one of the revolutionary leaders. So she's like a total badass on this world. And
just get used to these coincidences, because on every world, at least one of them plays some sort of pivotal role. Their alternate plays a
I
pivotal
mean,
role.
it's sort of like when like people get like past life readings. They're always like,
You were Catherine the Great.
oh yeah, you were, oh, you were Robert the Bruce. You were, or you were like a druid princess or like something fancy that's never.
Well, do you remember the movie with Albert Brooks where he's dead and Meryl Streep?
Defending Your Life.
Yeah, but then she goes to get her past lives and she was like all these amazing people, and then he goes to get his past life and he's just like running from a boulder.
Pretty good.
It's just like that.
But yeah, like in sliding, it is all. I mean, it is a lot of just like them finding out, them on that world they're always up to something. They're like, uh-oh, the Quinn on this world is a murderer.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But then Wilkins immediately can tell that she wasn't the real Wade when he kissed her, and he calls her his lover, which is disgusting.
It's so disgusting.
But it turns out
this also makes Quinn Mallory sort of jealous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is the only thing that makes him view Wade as anything in a sexual context.
They clearly have these two characters here to have this will they or won't they dynamic that never manifests.
Correct.
And I hate it so much. I wrote here, more jealous romantic stuff between Wade and Quinn that I couldn't care less about. I never did. Jerry O'Connell should have been eye candy who fucked a new woman on each planet. He should have been a scoundrel, in my opinion. He was too much of a neutered goody-goody.
Yeah, he needed to be like more like a Captain Kirk, where he's just like always, just like every planet they're on, he's just like, I've got a lover, But yeah, they have this thing, and like they could not have less sexual chemistry. They have, I mean, it is serious brother-sister vibes.
Yes. Well, they have the same haircut.
Yeah.
And
they have the same haircut, and it's just
more chemistry with the professor.
Yes, exactly. And it literally just feels like they're like the most they'll ever do to each other is just to playfully punch each other on the shoulder. It is not there. They are trying to like set up like this relationship to be something, and no one is buying it.
Right. I don't think I ever really liked any of the characters, really. Like, I mean, I don't feel any I don't feel any like lingering fondness for any of them. I mean, I definitely don't like Wade.
I definitely don't like Wade.
Yeah, she's so whiny.
She is very whiny. She's
very short.
It's tough because they don't give her much, especially in this pilot episode. Her one defining characteristic is that she has a crush on a guy who doesn't like her. And
she knows about computers.
And it's pathetic. It's a little bit, you're just like, oh no. And
I don't need to go to TV to see that.
No, especially, me watching it, in the 90s, that was not the fantasy I wanted to live. I did not want like someone living my life just being like hers. And like, what a nightmare to just be like lost in these different dimensions with this guy that you have a crush on who like will never like you.
You're right. Looking at it from Wade's perspective, it's actually some sort of purgatory.
Yeah, it's a tragedy, really.
The whole thing's a tragedy.
I mean, truly. But like in regards to like characters, I definitely like the Crayon Man. I love
and the professor. I mean,
and the professor, yeah.
Right. Like it could probably be them, and then just one other kind of blank slate viewer stand-in, and that would have been fine.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't say Jerry O'Connell. I mean, although I found him attractive as a teenager, like he doesn't really have any kind of personality or unique characteristics besides being average height, apparently.
Of average height. Ooh,
there's a really funny moment here where Wade is walking past hilariously, a guy who's like living in tunnels and working for the resistance, but just sitting down and watching MTV on a TV in the hallway. But it's a rap video, and the guys are like, I guess they're rapping in English, but they're wearing traditional Russian garb.
Yes.
Like the tunics with the belts and like the big fur hats.
It's great.
And then there's a really funny time. I mean, I guess this is where the SNL stuff comes in. I mean,
I guess so.
do a lot
Like
of
these
jokes.
little touches, yeah.
But so she sees a bit of a PBS pledge drive, which is like, well, wouldn't all TV be public TV? But anyway, PBS, and then they say, pledge today or else. And then she sees, that's when she sees Remy on the People's Court, and it's the cab driver versus Remy, and it's Commissar. Yeah, it is Wapner. It says Commissar Wapner, and this is the first time when we hear Remy call Quinn by his nickname Cue Ball.
Oh, right.
Which is that supposed to be like a joke because he has a lot of hair?
I don't know.
I didn't understand it then, and I don't understand it now.
Cue Ball, like he's bald.
Is it Q as in the letter Q?
So who's being called Cue Ball?
Quinn.
Quinn is being called Cue Ball.
Yes.
So Q as in the letter Q.
To the judge and saying like, Cue Ball got me messed up.
Yeah. I would say Q as in the letter Q. So Quinn.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just putting that together. And then he is sentenced to 15 years in the Alaskan gulag for, I guess, having like fake currency or American currency or something.
Right.
Okay, so this is where I'm gonna say what he said without trying to do an impression of him, but like when he comes outside the courtroom, the guy says, "How do you feel about your sentencing?" He goes, "How do you think I feel, fool? I am never watching this show again. Small claims my ass."
I mean, you know.
And then so then they find out that Arturo's double in this universe is like the highest up general.
Right.
In the army. So they dress him up like the general and then do this whole charade he sneaks in to try to get Remy out. And they're also going to try to get out the original Wade, who has been in there for 4 days being interrogated, I guess. Some people are randomly Russian and some are randomly American. I don't know. I guess that's what happens when Russians take over the world. They just send people all over.
Mishmash, yeah.
They do find Remy, and then Wade goes off to find herself. And then somehow this guy one of the officers figures out that Arturo is faking, and he sets off an alarm. And then a firefight ensues between the rebels and the communist soldiers. And then they get away. They shoot their way out. They get away. They're very excited. And then Quinn realizes that Wade has passed out in the Jeep. She has been shot. But of course, it's not his Wade. It's the Wade from this world, and she is dead. Boo! Quinn is so happy.
So they're like bad relationship, like drama can live another day. You know.
Yes. I mean, when this one from this world had this great lover, apparently.
Right.
So he feels he's so happy that she's alive. He says, "I promise, I'm going to get you home." But we know he never does.
Right.
Even alternate Wade, even though her hair looks better. I mean, it's clearly the same hair because it's the same actress, but they have done something to it to make it like not look terrible. That I can't really explain. And then there's some sort of outdoor camp, and Remy is singing Amazing Grace over the bodies of the dead fighters from the firefight. And this actor actually is an amazing singer. He used to be on Broadway.
He is, yeah, he's great.
And then like Arturo and Quinn start making quote unquote calculations to get home. And Arturo pulls out a slide rule that I guess he just carries around in his pocket. He's like, "My boy, before we had computers, we had these." And they do, I don't know, calculations, whatever those are. But we're supposed to
believe... What are the calculations? Like, what are they? That's what there's a lot of like trappings of like, yes, I'm a professor, here's my slide rule, and like we're going to do calculations, and but you're like, calculations for what? Like,
I think if I were an actor and I was trying to decide between like some sort of realistic, I don't know, heartfelt drama and some sort of sci-fi thing, I'd have to stop and go, am I gonna have to like make a bunch of nonsense and act like I know what I'm talking about? And that would be a deciding factor in which job I took.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Like when, like you just finished watching all of ER, right? Like they had to say all the technical stuff all the
I
time.
just can't. I'm just so impressed that they are able to say any of that dialogue because it is just all this technical jargon. They're like tension, pneumo, blah blah blah, and you're like, and they're saying it so fast. I wouldn't be able to even talk that fast, let alone say all of that stuff and sound convincing. So I would never be on like a medical show.
Yeah, you guys don't invite me. I mean,
save
your time.
I know you wanted to hire me to act on a medical drama, but I'm gonna have to pass.
Barking up the wrong tree.
But yeah, I mean, definitely, Rachel, though, like you would definitely have too many questions for a sci-fi show. Like you would get fired. Because you would ask too many questions.
That's fine.
But apparently, so like spoiler alert, I mean, well, I've already said that like the Crying Man is the only one who makes it all the way through the 5 seasons. The first person to leave the show is Jonathan Rhys-Davies, who like attributed his reason to leaving as that he was just not impressed with the writing. He thought it was stupid. He was so like he was just like, I couldn't be on the show anymore.
I'm gonna go be in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. He's like, I'll be
well written, apparently.
Yes.
So the rebels basically we're supposed to believe that because they helped out in this firefight, that the rebels now think that this will turn their tide in their favor, and this whole communist thing is going to be fixed in no time.
Right.
And then the 4 of them leave. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they're going, and they run. They're trying to get away, and they like run down the road 100 feet, and then like there's a mob chasing them because they realize that they're not, I don't know, communist or whatever. And then they run down the road, they turn it on, and they open the vortex, and they all jump in, and they land in front of the Lincoln statue. And they, again, think they're back home. At this point, nobody has changed clothes or brushed their teeth or eaten. How long have they been gone? 2 or 3 days. I can't stop thinking about how unbearable it is to not change my underwear every day. Like, I think about it maybe every 5 minutes when I watch a show where people are on the run.
Yeah. It's just like, when are they going to the bathroom? When are they sleeping? When are they doing anything, And because like truly like the show is just like, a lot of it is like they're just in peril all the time. Yeah, they never have the right money. They like it's not like they could just like, let me just go home and change. There is no home.
It would be stealing a lot. It'd be a lot of stealing food.
Yeah.
So they get back. They all go back to Quinn's. Oh, Remy. Wait, I think they all go back to Quinn's house in a taxi.
Yes.
The gate squeaks. Yes, that's good. Quinn's mom is happy to see them. They start having dinner. Arturo starts to say we should destroy the device.
Right.
But then Quinn's dad shows up, who we already know to be dead. And Quinn is so shocked he drops his wine glass and it shatters, and that's the end of the first episode.
That is the end of the episode. Woo!
What a ride.
What a ride. Oh, where will they go next, Rachel?
We're not gonna find out because we'll be watching Wings.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna watch Wings next week.
I have one thing that's in common between Sliders and Wings is I don't want to get any flack for saying this.
Travel?
Pardon?
Travel?
Travel. Okay. I was gonna say not conventionally attractive female lead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So like Sabrina Lloyd plays Wade Wells, who is the female lead. And all I could think of when I was watching her was like, wow, this was like the Lori Petty era of like.
For casting Wade, they didn't want someone so attractive. Like if she was too attractive, then like clearly
they'd be like, well, why doesn't he like her?
Well, it's clearly because she's not attractive enough. There's no other reason.
Correct. But I do think it's funny that like their impulse was like, oh yeah, we can cast this woman who's like, it's not that she's unattractive. She's not unattractive. She's just like looks very like regular. She looks like very like, a girl next door kind of thing. And And also just like she's just like has no sex appeal. But
But I actually wonder if they styled her intentionally to not be sexually attractive. I mean,
right. I think so, because I mean, did you see her uniform at Doppler, the computer store? I wrote down, I was like, these pants are the most unflattering chinos I've ever seen in my life. And it's just like, I was just like, they're already being so mean to this actress. It's like, we get it, she's not supposed to be pretty, But then like, I just like that the producers of the show were like, this is great, this is great, like she doesn't have to be like, a sex pot. But then 3 seasons in, they're like, what if we hire a sex pot and her name's Carrie Wurr, because like, it is just so funny that like Sabrina, they bring in an MTV VJ who is just like, when she's on the show, is just like exclusively wearing like short shorts and tank tops, and she's just like, ooh.
Well, one thing they said that I've learned from skimming this episode guide, there's a bunch of interviews with the cast in the back, and I think they kind of knew that they were going to get bumped around the schedule a lot, and they even thought they might have been on at 7:00 sometimes, which meant that they couldn't do anything raunchy. So they wanted sexual tension without ever having any actual sex scenes.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And there's something here that I have a rant that I've prepared, because it's a rant related to a TV show that we're not going to be covering because it was too popular.
Okay. Go ahead.
So in the little bit, the first chapter is called What is Sliding? And then it's called, second chapter is Who are the Sliders? And when they talk about who Wade is Wade Wells is Quinn's smart, delightful friend who wants to be more than just a friend, but for now must be content going on a series of incredible adventures. She is also a whiz at computers, but is far too cute to be a nerd.
Oh.
And this
far too cute to be a nerd. Oh gosh. I take issue with that. I have
a feeling like that she was perceived maybe as like a Winona Ryder type.
Do
you think like petite brunette with short hair, but maybe without the charisma, I guess. But what I wanted to say was, in terms of like girls being nerds, the biggest social shift of our lifetime, Val, has not been social media. It has not been income inequality. It has not been, name something else, the tech industry. It has been glasses becoming cool. Because when I was 10, Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell, which is a show that was so popular that we could not talk about it, said to Jessie, and Jessie at this point thought she had to get glasses. She said, Zach, would you ever date a girl with glasses? He said, ew, no.
Right. No, I remember this.
Everyone's wearing glasses. People wearing fake glasses. People wearing glasses that don't need glasses. Well, I grew up in a time when it was not cool. Now it's cool to be a nerd. I feel this.
Yeah, I mean, also just like on the same tip, it's a nerd is not an insult anymore. Like people,
everything's flipped around. Comic books are cool.
Right. It's nerd is mainstream. There's nothing, that whole kind of concept has like disappeared,
Yeah, big societal cultural shifts.
Big shift.
We were here to witness it. The other two more interesting things. One is that they say, believe it or not, it took guts to portray a Soviet-occupied America. All previous attempts at this have received critical derision. There's a fine old Hollywood tradition that the highest standard is a double standard. Many old B films with an unbelievable Nazi scheme are given better reviews and a higher rating in film review books than identical B films with an unbelievable commie scheme. So I don't know, like by electing to portray a Soviet-occupied America, the creators of Sliders ran the risk of being accused of McCarthyism. So I knew from the start that Sliders would not be a typical TV series. It is it doesn't really fully explain it to me.
Yeah, that seems
that maybe the Cold War
seems like a stretch. That seems like a stretch. Like that really seems like, they're creating their own mythos there, like we are real risk takers,
But I think it's because the wall falling was still relatively recently. It only happened
Yeah.
years ago. Maybe it was just kind of too. Okay, so the other interesting thing is that the guy that plays Rembrandt Brown is named Cleavant Derricks.
Yep.
And he is a twin.
Yes.
Oh, you knew already.
I know that already. Yes.
My brother came and joined me on one of the shows, and we were able to do a lot of things with the camera that you would think, wait a minute, how they do that?
Yeah, some real twin antics,
He said when he first read the script, he turned it down because he thought his character was a little over the top, and he was more of a caricature than a character. But then I had a talk with Tracy Torme, and he promised that he would work this guy around to where he'd be a real human being.
And I think they actually did that. I mean,
yes, they did.
He's definitely the character that you care the most about throughout the series. Especially since he just shouldn't even be there. So, but I mean, you gotta give him credit that he just immediately bonds himself to that crew. He's like, all right, we're all in it together, and so I will help you, and so that's kind of cool. But
throughout the series, there's times when they land in a world or a situation that's kind of okay, and different characters will go, well, should I stay here?
Yes.
I'll just stay. And I think that's what the professor does at one point.
Yeah, I think so. It's I forget what it is, but it's an episode where I don't know if he's
famous
in that world or something, but he's just I'm just gonna stay.
Yeah. I can't even handle going to an Airbnb for 4 days. So
no,
I probably just land in the first world that was tolerable.
You would. Yeah, I don't know.
I have 2 small children with me, Val, or am I by myself?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is a good question. How many slides would you go through before just being screw it? This place is fine enough.
The Sliders episode I remember the most is the one that's based off Shirley Jackson's The Lottery.
Yes. I remember that one the most too.
Where I don't understand how this helps. I don't remember how this helps the society at all. But
it's an ATM machine, or it's an ATM where if you can, it's free. It's free money. You can take out money as much as you want.
Right. But
and then
it's like buying a lottery ticket. The more you take out, each one it represents a ticket in this lottery to be basically killed.
Correct.
The way didn't know that, she took out $1 million.
She's like, cool.
And then she won it, and then I think that they got her out of there in time. But
right.
I guess there have been a lot of things that copied off of the lottery.
That's a good story. I also like the episode where the Crying Man is famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like when the Crying Man wins.
Oh yeah.
It makes me happy.
Okay, well, do we have any other final thoughts about
I just wanted to add, did you know that this pilot was the highest rated pilot of 1995? Did you know that?
How many 2-hour pilots of 1995?
Well, no, it wasn't the highest rated 2-hour pilot. It was the highest rated pilot itself. So highest rated pilot of 1995 was Sliders.
I want to know how well did Sliders do compared to Star Trek? Because Star Trek was always on UPN.
Yeah.
It was never on. And when I was growing up, it wasn't on any of the Prime networks.
Right. I remember they played it on Fox, on Sundays or something. But it wasn't, or maybe it was UPN. But yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a primetime feature. Would you like to guess what other notable shows debuted in 1995 that were in this heated competition for top rated premiere?
Was it X-Files?
Well,
Oh, I saw it
X-Files,
earlier.
the reason why this was like a top-rated premiere was that it debuted before an X-Files episode, and it was like during X-Files prime. So it was like the first, I think it was the second year of X-Files. So like when X-Files was like still it, and so they, it was Sliders for 2 hours and then X-Files. So people kind of, and like, it does seem like a very good like marrying of, it seems like a Sliders person could like has stuff in common with an X-Files person. So
Oh
you're like,
yeah, definitely.
all right, I'll watch this. That sounds fine. And like, I want to watch the X-Files later anyway, so I'll just watch this. Other shows that debuted in 1985. Seems like a light year. But Star Trek Voyager, Jag, Drookie, I was like, Jag?
Jag should be on our list.
Yes. The Drew Carey Show,
Oh.
News Radio, Mad TV, Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess all both debuted.
I just added Xena as a show on the list like yesterday.
Thank you. And then also Baywatch Nights, Ned and Stacy, Caroline in the City, Sybil, and American Gothic. So
well,
it didn't seem like a very like banner year for classic.
But then like each of those shows gets 30 million viewers because
exactly. Isn't it weird to think about that? Like even the most forgotten shows of the 90s probably had more viewers than, I don't know, Bridgerton or or like Mr. Robot or something, More people watched Ned and Stacy than Mr. Robot.
And you know what? We were more united. We had more in common. We were all watching X-Files.
We were.
Friends probably had just started the year before, right?
Yeah.
Did they start in 94?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Have you ever heard of Friends?
What is it?
94, yeah, September 94. And then it ran for about 500 years.
Yeah.
And then we never talked about it again.
Never. No, it never came back up. So it's ripe for reappraisal, I think, because,
Well, it was good to dig into Sliders again. It made me want to watch more episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we probably will if we run out of forgotten 90s shows to talk about.
I mean, there are a lot. I found more even as I was going through.
Okay.
So there are a lot of.
I think we have a year planned.
Right. So there are a lot of forgotten 90s shows. You have no idea.
Take a 1-week holiday.
I just speaking of Lori Petty, there was one. She was on a Fox show in 1996 called Lush Life.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it's like about two roommates and.
Okay, well let's say goodbye for this one, and we
will say goodbye. And next time we'll be discussing the pilot episode of Wings.
And if anyone wants to see the pilot episode of Wings, it's available on Hulu.
Right, and also if you're interested in watching Sliders, which I think we've convinced you that you should be, it's free on Peacock. So
there you go.
Slide away.
All 5 seasons, Val?
All 5 seasons.
All right.
And I can't in good conscience recommend seasons 4 and 5, but
1 through 3 are good.
1 through 3, it's consistent. So I think you should go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, bye, Val. Talk to you next time.
Bye, Rachel. Oh, and if you want to email us, you can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com.
Sliders, AND wings @gmail.com, right?
That's correct.
Not an ampersand. This has been Sliders and Wings with Val and Rachel. Goodbye.
Goodbye.